Okay, unfortunately, we don't have a gavel here, which is always fun, but I would like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone. Tonight is a night where we're going to an election or nomination for board chair and vice chair. And with such, I begin the meeting to allow nominations to come from the trustees. So there's not a lot of other introductions or at this time. So I'll just get straight into it. So I would like to call for nominations for the position of board chairperson for the coming school year or for the coming year. Are there any nominations for the position of board chairperson?
Let's nominate John Kerr.
Okay, John Kerr, do you accept that nomination?
I do.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the position of board chairperson? I'll ask again, are there any other nominations for the board chairperson? And for the final time, hearing no further nominations. Nominations are now closed, and I'll declare that John Kerr has been elected by acclamation to the position of board chairperson for the coming year.
Okay, we'll just. All right. Okay, to begin with, I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Niquotaw people. Being board chair is a great responsibility. In the 6 years that I've been on the board, this role has been admirably filled by two of our trustees, Susan Wilson and Richard Franklin. I have large shoes to fill. The next 2 years will be filled with challenges, I fear, with the continued effects of COVID-19 and the resultant budget pressures resulting from the provincial deficit that's tied to COVID-19. I look forward to working with this board in this position for the next year. Working together, I believe that we will continue to have a positive influence on our students' achievement. There's so much happening in our district that can only enhance our students' learning, and I will do my utmost to be worthy of your confidence in me. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. I would like to call for nominations for the position of board vice chairperson for the coming year. Trustee McMahon.
I would like to nominate Trustee Kat Eddy for the position of vice chair, please.
Will you accept the nomination, Trustee Eddy?
I will.
Are there further nominations for the position of vice chair for the second time? Is there a further nomination for the position of board vice chair for the third and final time? Okay, hearing none, I declare you elected by acclamation. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I didn't prepare any remarks, but I do want to express my gratitude for your support. I'm honored to be given the opportunity to learn in such a high functioning and supportive environment. And hopefully I can support John as he moves us forward in support of our kids and our staff. Thank you.
Okay. Now we need to move into the next item, appointment of signing officers. And the suggested motion is that the Board of Education for School District Number 72 Campbell River hereby appoints the Secretary Treasurer, Assistant Secretary Treasurer, Board Chairperson, and Vice Chairperson as signing officers for the school district. We have someone to move that motion, please. Trustee Wilson, seconded by Trustee Franklin. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. We'll move into superintendent's remarks.
Well, I'd like to start by congratulating Trustee Kerr and Trustee Eddy for your new positions and expressing my own personal gratitude for your willingness to do that. And really looking forward to working closely with you in your new roles and in the capacity in which the board has chosen to place you. We have student-led conferences. They started last week in elementary and middle, and teachers are connecting with families through email, phone calls, or virtual meetings. We have asked, again, as we try to keep our schools as safe as possible, we've had to move those student-led conferences to a virtual format this year. I'm also pleased to share with trustees and the public that this Friday, our district will be participating in the initial meeting for the Equity in Action project. We are now one of 46 school districts taking part and one of the 15 school districts that are joining in this process this year. This is a multi-year project, and the purpose of it is to enable our district to continue to move forward in the commitment and actions towards equity and parity for our Indigenous learners. In our district's strategic plan, one of the key goals is to have equity and parity across all measures for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students. This Equity in Action project will enable us to operationalize this goal. We will be reviewing practices and policies that may be creating obstacles for our Indigenous learners in our district and be exploring strategic ways to create the necessary conditions for success. I look forward to beginning that work this week. And while there have been so many face-to-face group meetings, celebrations, and assemblies that had to have been canceled this year, or in order for them to take place, that needed to experience a massive shift. I want to just share that today, all Campbell River schools either created their own or participated and created and participated in virtual Remembrance Day ceremonies. And I was fortunate enough today to join in with a remembrance ceremony in Phoenix, or with Phoenix, not in Phoenix, but watching virtually. And it's inspiring to see a school engage and our schools engage in the changes needed to still celebrate and move forward with those important pieces. And watching students and staff presenters as well, they were able to record a song from the choir at Pinecrest to incorporate into that ceremony. It was shared with all members of our school district, so all schools were able to participate in that particular Remembrance Day ceremony. And I just want to acknowledge that there's tremendous effort involved, both with staff and students, to make sure that the important events and things like Remembrance Day are still acknowledged and celebrated and inspired. Back on her. So thank you. Small technical difficulty. I think we've got that sorted out. And I'm grateful to report, and we'll do this at each board meeting, just whether there's been any school exposure events. And I just want to share my gratitude that we have not had any school exposure events since our last board meeting. And again, I want to remind our community that schools will reflect what is happening with COVID in our community. And I want to continue to take this opportunity to encourage our community to continue doing everything they can in following public health guidelines to keep our schools as safe as we can keep them. And then lastly, I would like to wish our staff, students, and our community a safe, relaxing, and reflective Remembrance Day tomorrow.
Thank you. Superintendent Moore, are there any questions of Superintendent Moore? Okay, we'll move into the approval of the minutes for the meeting of October 20th, 2020. And the suggested motion is that the minutes of the meeting of October 20th, 2020 are hereby approved as circulated. Moved by trustee Franklin, seconded by trustee Hagan. All those in favor? Oh, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the motion is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Hearing none, we'll move into additions or alterations to the agenda. Trustee Franklin?
I'd like to add a item, probably under 18A, vaccine rollout.
Okay. Trustee Hagan?
I'd like to add one under 14B and C, one under recognition, and the other one under student involvement.
Okay. Trustee McMahon?
I'm not sure whether trustee Hagan had in mind the same issue that I did as board strategies for support of our district. Is that what you had in mind?
That's right.
Okay, we've got it.
Okay, so it'll be, yours will be 14C as well as.
I think they're the same.
Okay, all right. So the suggested motion is that the agenda is hereby approved as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. Okay, and the report on the board decisions from the November 10th confidential board meeting. Well, that's typically done by the vice chair, so I was the vice chair at that meeting. So I don't know if I should be doing it or trustee Eddie should be doing it. But, would you care to do that?
I would love for you to do it this meeting. That would be great.
All right. Essentially, we covered a lot of ground, but we did discuss matters of personnel and legal matters. We have completed our agenda for the evening, so we are done. We are done in that area. Okay. Item nothing to public submissions or agenda submissions. So, educational submissions, outdoor education report, Superintendent Morrow.
So before we delve into this report, I just want to acknowledge that I did not actually make this report. This report was put together by Jennifer Patrick, so all of the nice graphics and wording is hers, so I don't want to take credit for that, but I will share with the board a little bit of what's happening around the district in regards to some of the outdoor learning initiatives. And I want to start by just saying, as thorough as the report is, and as comprehensive as it is not summative. It is simply a sampling of some of the activities that are taking place across the district. So it's not an exhaustive list. And I won't go through the whole report, but I will just point out to those that are watching and those that may be reviewing this later that this will be posted on the website, and it is part of the public agenda package, so people at home can certainly follow along if they're inclined. They just need to follow the links on the website. So I want to start by just looking at some of the headings, so I'll just synthesize really quickly. So if you'd like to scroll along with me as you look, but one of the pieces we have established quite a bit of interest in, and we've seen a particular growth in this over the last number of years, is the expansion of some of our school garden programs. We have well-established school gardens now in Cedar, Ocean Grove, Cortez, Quadra, Carey High, Timberline, and Robron. I was fortunate enough when I did my school visit on Cortez that I left with a little bag of vegetables that was provided from the school garden as a little care package for the trip home. And all of the vegetables were wonderful, although I do think the principal put an extra hot pepper in there, and I'm not sure if that was intentional, but it was very hot. But what's really exciting too is to recognize that a lot of those gardens take place as part of a community initiative, and that there's community involvement. In a magical place like Cortez in the school garden, which is really beautifully done, but it's been supported and enhanced by the community. And I think one of the neat pieces is as students are involved in the learning of how food grows, where it comes from, They also help serve some of the community areas, so their food is actually delivered, and so also there's lessons around social responsibility and lots of other lessons embedded in the growing of our food. I know Chef Mann at Carey High, and her program actually has a herb garden where they actually, students will collect herbs and use that for some of the program. We have several elementary schools. Examples include Cedar, Georgia Park, and Cole Point that have created outdoor kits to help students study elements of the outdoors. So an outdoor kit contains items like magnifying glasses, notebooks, clipboards, field guides, plant ID cards, picture books, bug boxes, and things like knee mats. So when students do want to get down on the ground, they can not get wet. I do want to share that one of our forest school champions, Sheila McGrath, the vice principal at Georgia Park, will be joining the board at one of our next meetings to share about some of the forest school that's taking place at Georgia Park, where each class spends 50 minutes each week learning outdoors. So many schools take advantage of trips to the beach and our local forests. Some of the schools have forested areas as part of their school grounds, and all of those schools take advantage of those spaces. Schools like Ecola Point take classes outside on a regular basis for lessons that address concepts in math, art, journal writing, and reading. And I wanted to give a brief shout out to our students over on Surge Narrows that often go out and create space or create art using natural items and then capture it on camera and have a collage of art that they have collected building artistic things in the outdoors. So these are just a few, again, examples of how schools are getting outside for learning. I think one of the really beautiful things about being outside is that there's a real intentionality with a number of our schools to incorporate Indigenous ways of knowing and doing. So for example, Georgia Park, students are learning Coast Salish names as part of their learning activities in their forest school. Southgate, as an example, will use ethnobotany and resources created by our own Indigenous Ed department that helps guide students in an understanding of how items were traditionally used by Indigenous people. And those are just a few of the examples. There's a real integration as kids and staff explore the outdoors, where we've integrated some of the natural learnings of the land and the peoples that were here first. We have Wilderness Wednesdays, creative, outdoor, imaginative spaces, school naturescaping projects, which work collaboratively with community partners around habitat restoration and conservation. There's a particularly close relationship between School District 72 and Greenways Land Trust. And even with the disruption of 2019, the number of COVID, the number of students that are participating in those programs continues to grow each year. So we have many schools doing a wide range of activities outdoors. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that there's a number of really outdoor specialty programs that are taking place in all three of our high schools that capitalize on our location. There's a whole group of learning around place-based education and the value and importance of it, and what a place we live in, the traditional terms of the Likwitha people, and it's such a beautiful place to explore and to learn. And so we have programs that take place in Rawron, Timberline, and Carey High. So whether it's building community through paddling in district canoes, or participating in a semester-long course where students do backcountry travel, rock climbing, biking, water travel, winter camping, or whether it's participating in a popular fly fishing course where students learn conservation, all things fly fishing, and get to participate as part of an amazing learning community. Just want to share with the board that there are remarkable learning opportunities for students in School District 72 where students are interested in those activities. And I just want to acknowledge the reason why our students have so many exemplary opportunities in terms of outdoor education and education outdoors is because we are so fortunate to have a number of committed and passionate educators who have created these outdoor learning opportunities. So it's a place where a number of our teachers are passionate about, and that passion is extended to opportunities for our students, which is so powerful to see. It's interesting too, through this report, we also heard from schools that we staff who are in leadership positions will need to continue to find ways to help support these educators in their efforts to get learning outside, that there are resource needs that have been identified to support this work, both material like garden equipment and other sort of physical resources, as well as ongoing professional learning and development opportunities. There is still a need for some outdoor structures and an outdoor learning group that works like a steering committee to help facilitate some of the initiatives that are taking place across the district. So again, we have really, I think as a Board of Education, we have a real strong sense of pride and accomplishment with your teachers who have offered such remarkable opportunities for our youth. And I know that this was an area that was of interest to the board, and that report was generated by request from the board to hear about some of those opportunities. So those are, again, a sample and a fairly high-level view of some of those opportunities. And I think what we'd like to do is follow up with some specific staff presentations that will give more details to some of those specific programs to trustees.
Okay. Trustee Hagan?
Yeah, thanks for the report. I was going by the Oyster River the other day, and there was, probably 30 or 40 people gathered there to harvest or to capture the fish so that they could take them off for spawning. And there are all kinds of things that we see going on in the community, and if we can involve our students, or if there were a contact person from the community to our school district so that, hey, this is going to be happening in the next while, it'd be nice if that kind of connection grew and grew to incorporate all the different things that we do have in our area.
Absolutely.
Okay, Trustee Lee?
I just want to acknowledge community coming into schools to help engage our kids. I don't know if anybody's been to Rob Run lately, but the driftwood artist who does all the installments has created the most amazing piece with the help of the students, and it's in the center of Rob Run. And it's amazing to see the kids walk by and have so much pride in this. It's incredible. It's stunning. It's a horse in full, it's a unicorn in full gallop, and it's just stunning. So I want to acknowledge that the community and the arts community in Campbell River, as well as Greenways Land Trust, really are committed to sharing their knowledge with our kids, and it's greatly appreciated.
Trustee McMahon?
Yeah, I also want to acknowledge, I think this is this whole enthusiasm for both outdoor learning and learning outdoors has really taken shape on the backs of those teachers that have that enthusiasm. And I see it as being the beginning of something that is moving further and bigger, and it's very reassuring to see this view of what's taking place. I think it really is a good indicator of the amount of passion that lies within our staff to be able to take these kind of ideas and really run with them in creative ways. I'm really excited about this, and I thank those teachers who have taken that on.
I think what's really interesting is that in this year of 2020, and it's not just 2020, but in this century, 21st century, with the immersion and the integration of technology, is the need to be intentional. And I think that piece around, we have staff who are not just passionate, but really intentional about rooting students' experience in nature and connecting again with the land. And I think those were pieces potentially in our own childhoods that we often just did because that was how we were busy. And our students now, and I know there's a little joke within the report, but you know, where the student says, "Oh yes, nature. That's I think level 7 of my video game." You know, but we do have that intentionality, and I think we see some really positive behavioral shifts and mind shifts when we have kids having that space in the outdoors. So it's necessary this time to be intentional with that work.
Any other comments? I'll just leave with one. I don't know how many people have access to the Times columnist newspaper. There's a columnist, a former superintendent, I believe, Sunshine Coast. His name is Jeff Johnson. And Jeff Johnson writes in the Sunday paper about educational issues each week. He writes, and I believe it was the Sunday before last. He wrote an article on outdoor, talking about being outdoors in school. and he was talking about outdoor education and outdoor learning. Really fantastic article. If you can access the Times Collins website, just look up the name Jeff Johnson. His first name is spelled Geoff. And the title will tell, I don't have the exact, I think I gave it, did I cast it to you?
did.
Yes. The article is entitled Outdoor Learning is an Idea Whose Time Has Come. A really fantastic article if you can access it. Okay. All right. Then we will move on to the elected and board matters. And first item on this one, 14A, is FSA letter. 2 meetings ago, we had a presentation on the FSA. We discussed it in our last meeting, and the board communications committee was directed to write a letter to the Minister of Education, which we'll be copying to our partner groups, explaining our position on the FSA. It's unfortunate, I guess, in the board's perspective, that the information for the FSA, the unfortunate thing is it's valuable for the use of the educational system. However, the information has been taken and corrupted and used for purposes for which it was never intended. Originally, it was designed to provide just a snapshot, and it was also to be combined with district assessments and also classroom assessments by the teacher. So it became a triangulation point, just one piece of the information that would allow parents and teachers and the system to understand how students were progressing. So the purposes of the FSA originally were to provide system-level information on student performance, to provide districts and schools with information on student performance, and to provide parents with a snapshot of how their children are performing in reading, writing, and numeracy. Nowhere in there does it talk about ranking schools. The Foundation Skills Assessment meets its purpose by providing parents and school districts with important information about how well students are progressing in the foundation skills of reading, writing, and mathematics. It allows our school district 72 to triangulate data provided by classroom teachers and SD 72's assessments in these areas at the district and school levels. The FSA was designed by teachers using the BC performance standards to ensure that the assessment results are valid and reliable. In the letter, the board makes, I'm summarizing here, in the letter, the board makes 5 recommendations. The first recommendation is that individual student results should be shared with individual parents. Second, that results of the assessment should be shared with district administration on a district basis and not on a school-by-school basis. That the data should be presented in a manner that allows it to be disaggregated to allow districts to be informed of the progress of Indigenous students. The data should be presented in a manner that allows it to be disaggregated to allow districts to examine student progress on a gender basis. And that the Ministry of Education develop and disseminate a public information campaign that explains the purposes and intended uses of the foundation skills assessment. It's a valuable tool, but it is only intended as a snapshot that is to be used in conjunction with other means of assessment. It is not to be the only assessment that ranks schools. So the board feels very strongly about this, and we will be sending the letter off to the minister and our partner groups. Any questions or comments on that one? Yes, Trustee Campbell.
I move that the letter be sent.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Trustee Eddy. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Say aye. All those opposed, say nay. All right, the next item, 14B, recognition. Trustee Hagan.
Yes, I get a chance to meet quite a few of our employees in the district, and I only have praise for the work that they're doing. I've seen a lot of exhaustion going on. There's been a massive change in the way we do business, and the change has created a lot of work for everyone. We have the stress of going into perhaps situations where we're not sure how things are going to turn out, which causes, again, fatigue as we move along. Our frontline workers in this district are facing that every day. This is not something that they actually signed up for when they said, I want to be a teacher. This is something that's come along, and they have become our frontline workers. They are critical for our society to keep functioning, for children to be safe, for children to learn, for families to coexist, for businesses to thrive. These are all there. And it's our teachers, and it's our QP members, and our, well, I'm going to miss somebody if I list them all. And we have our principals and vice principals, and I'm not good with background noise. And what I have to say is that lately I've been listening to a lot of the Remembrance Day fatigue that was occurring during the war. And they were talking about families at home waiting for the loved ones to come home safely. And they were talking about how the stress is just not knowing what's going to happen. People made huge sacrifices with their businesses, with their farms, with their families to fight a battle. And we have a battle before us right now. It is massive. It's worldwide. And everyone needs to do their part. But I'd like everyone in this area in Campbell River to recognize the job that teachers are doing as frontline workers, as QP members clean the schools, as our bus drivers drive the buses around, and as our principals and vice principals hang on to the steering wheel and try to steer it. And let's not forget all the changes from the upper management, trying to create an environment that's safe. And so far we've been lucky. But luck doesn't come on its own. This is hard work, and people are tired, and I would like to recognize that. I have gone to a few schools and visited. I've seen what's going on. The way that messages are presented, families at home are tired. And we'd all like this just to be over, but it's still here. We all need to do our part, but let's remember our school teachers as being the ones right now, our QP members, right now, that we should be remembering and encouraging, and bring them a bowl of soup and put it on their doorway. I don't know what to say, but we need to do something. And as a board, I would like to see us put a letter forward and say, you are working with distinction. That we have nothing but admiration for the workers in this district. It's a powerful job you're doing. Many sacrifices have been made. Businesses have gone out of work. Employees have gone through a lot of stress. And I want to recognize that. I don't know how else to say it, but we admire the work that you're doing in our district, every one of you.
Thank you. Anybody have anything to add to that? Trustee McMahon?
Just briefly, I agree entirely with what Trustee Hagan has said, but I think that as a board, we're kind of in a position to make sure that the message gets through loud and clear. It's up to us to incite the media to take up the cause of those people who are working frontline to create a healthy environment for our school district, for school districts all over the province. But I think that the work that has been done, as Trustee Hagan described, has largely gone unrecognized by the media and by the way in which the public has embraced the kind of commitment that it's taken to keep our schools running safely and to move forward with public education. So I don't know if a letter, as Trustee Hagan suggested, to the media or a press release on the behalf of the school district is necessary, but I think we need to get those pots and pans banging, as Superintendent Moreau suggested. It's time to recognize our staff throughout the district that who have made our goals and aspirations possible through this time.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on into item C, student involvement, and I believe that is you, Trustee Hagan, again.
Yes, I just don't want you to think that I've forgotten about our student involvement. I've approached a number of people now, and I've been looking for ideas. During the COVID period now, I think I've come down to the idea that we will have to do it online. We'll have to gain input. Somewhere, I think there needs to be a recognition for people's resumes, for gathering information, questions and answers that students may have, because again, that's why we're here. We want to do the best job we can for all of the students in our system, and if they have input that they would like to give us as a board, how we can do our job better, that's where I'm heading. I'm hoping to come up with a proposal in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, Trustee McMahon.
Sorry, I'd like to skip back to 14C before we leave that.
Oh,
I'm wondering if we need a motion to be able to direct our communications department to, I don't know whether we need an ad or whether we need a letter to our local media, or whether we need to put a banner up on our website, but I'd like to take some action around our feelings around our staff rather than just having had this discussion.
Okay, Trustee Franklin.
I could make a suggestion that the new newly elected chair and vice chair work with our communications officer to come up with something appropriate that will meet the that will express the feelings of the board, as Trustee Hagan has just very eloquently spoken of the last few minutes.
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
And we have a seconder for that. Okay, Trustee Wilson. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Okay. Moving on, there's no educational issues of business administration. Committee reports. Report on the BCSTA Provincial Council, October 24th. Trustee Wilson.
Yes, it was a very interesting experience. All my previous Zoom meetings had been rather small and, of course, quite inefficient until people become used to the method. We have 77 participants and one small technical hitch, so it was really interesting to see how far people's awareness of the use of technology has improved in just a short period of time. There was a training session ahead of time, so I'm sure that helped with some of it. Also, everybody was aware of the need to be efficient and focused, and I found that there was less side segues coming out of the motions and so on. But there were some good discussions. It was more efficient, I would say, than an in-person meeting with 77 people. And out of all of the motions, all of them were passed. There was one that did not, and I've been racking my brains for the last half hour trying to remember which one that was, but I'm afraid my memory is failing me on that one. However, it was one that needed to go back for further review, and so it was certainly the right decision. So it was a very positive experience, and I'm sure it'll continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments about Trustee Wilson's report? All right, then we shall move on to the report of the City of Campbell River School District 72 Liaison Committee. My name is on that, but I'm going to ask Trustee Franklin to help me out on it.
I'd love to help you, but my computer crapped out and I wasn't able to attend.
It was well.
I was there.
Maybe Secretary Treasurer Patrick could help out, or Superintendent Morrow. It was a very brief meeting. It took about half an hour.
Yeah, a very brief meeting. There was a short update on the Kerry High bus pullout that has proceeded, but it had to be reduced in scope to a single bus pullout from what had been hoped for a double bus pullout. There was also a report on just quick highlight on our strategic plan that we covered. And of course, I always have questions about growth and housing, and so we got a little bit of an update on that. So it was quite a short meeting. There wasn't a lot of topics to be covered, but of course it was felt important that the City of Campbell River and the school district continue regular meetings to maintain a good, positive relationship.
Thank you. Okay. Any other business? And that item is, item 18A is vaccine rollout. Trustee Franklin.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yesterday, I was very happy to hear that Pfizer had come up with a vaccine that was apparently 90% effective, and our Prime Minister talked about the vaccine starting to be rolled out in the first quarter of the coming year. At the same time, although I've been retired for a long time, I still know people in the system, and I was having a conversation actually today with a friend of mine who's a person in their 60s, teacher, music teacher. He has contact with 400 students a week. Not in this district, different district. And I asked him how he felt about all that, and he talked about just to sort of repeat what Trustee Hagan was talking about, how stressed, how exhausted he was, and how afraid he was to bring home COVID-19 to his family, grandchildren, and that sort of thing. There's not very many positions in our society where you have an adult in a room with upwards of 30 students with no masks on. But that is what faces our teachers and educational assistants every day. And when I read about the articles about the rollout, I don't see teachers in there. And I really want to make it very clear to the provincial government that our teachers, administrators, educational assistants, bus drivers, secretaries, and essentially all our employees are in close contact with other people, children, students, adolescents, young adults. And when they're in that room, they're not required to wear a mask. Our district and districts all around British Columbia have done a very good job of mitigating the risks for our employees of catching COVID-19. We've mitigated the risks, but they're not eliminated. And when I think about the rollout of the vaccine when it comes, I would really like to see our school employees very high on the level of priority to be the first to receive the vaccine. Because in my mind, these are people who, like nurses and doctors, are placing themselves in a position of risk. They're putting themselves out there with courage, And I admire them greatly. But I also think we need to support them. And one way we can support them as a board would be to support this motion. I move that the board encourage the provincial government to place a high priority on providing a COVID-19 vaccine to school district employees. For the reasons that I have just said. That's my motion.
All right, seconder, trustee Hagan. Do you want to speak to the motion anymore, or?
You know, as safe as our schools are, and I mean, to put it in St. Edie, here in Campbell River, Vancouver Island, we haven't had a lot of problem with the COVID-19, apart from the stress and the worry. But we've been lucky, and luck never lasts forever. Eventually something's going to happen. I would like to see our employees vaccinated ASAP, as soon as possible, because I don't know of, I believe like doctors, nurses, and people working in extended care homes and, you know, supporting our seniors, teachers, educational assistants, and other members of our staff are in very close contact with large numbers of students.
Any other comments on this, trustee Wilson?
I think this would be a very wonderful opportunity for the Communications Strategy Committee to write a letter to the ministry with these points in it.
Perhaps on the front page of the newspaper.
Do we have a seconder?
Anyone else?
Carol Hagan.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol, I didn't see your hand.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion is carried. Trustee Hagan.
Would it be too late to add anything else under any other business? It's about PC. I just like this to ask a few questions.
Okay, we probably should have done it when we adopted the agenda, but I'm prepared to make the exception unless somebody challenges me. Okay, trustee Hagan.
Yes, I understand. I was told that our two top people for BCPC, which is the employers group that looks after our rights as far as negotiation stay and those kinds of things. There's always been a question. This is our organization. It is our arm of the of school boards that does a lot of the work as far as mitigating our contracts and taking care of our business. But the question has always been, who is the employer? And as far as I'm concerned, we as a school board are the employer, and we co-govern with the government. But there's always been this battle back and forth where the government they'd like to blame us for a contract not working because it was negotiated through us. But on the other side, they'd really like to tell us what that contract is going to be. And the way I look at it is we are the employer. And I would like to know what's happening at the top level. When two of our people resign quite suddenly, and I'm looking for some answers that could come back to the board as to what the government's intention is with the organization, because I think it's really important that the people who are elected to represent education in their local areas are the people that have representation on a provincial level in negotiating contracts, because this is where the rubber hits the road. And perhaps I could get a report back, or the board could get a report back on what's going on at BCPC, and if we can find out maybe more circumstances around the resignation of these two employees.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
So would you care to state it as a motion?
Okay, you're asking me to think all of a sudden. No, I'm just going to say that we request to know the background from BCPC as to what's occurring with the resignation of 2 of our senior employees.
Can we just use that as direction to our secretary treasurer then?
We can.
Okay, so it doesn't need a motion. Fair enough.
So just for clarification, do you want me to ask BCPC what is going on? Would you like me to ask the government what is going on? Unfortunately, we did have a session with the deputy minister this morning, or this afternoon at 1 o'clock. He made reference to the fact that there was the CEO was moving positions. Didn't offer anything more than that. Superintendent Morrow was on that call as well. I don't know if you can have any other details.
That was a very accurate recollection of the call with the minister. It was absent detail.
Trustee Franklin?
Well, we have, but very shortly, Vice Chair, no, very shortly, the next meeting, we'll be having an election for the district's representative to BCPC. So on November 24, if anybody's interested in being our representative to BCPC, that will be on the agenda for the next board meeting, as well as the provincial council rep. So what I think would be worthwhile doing is when that election is held, that representative, or even prior to that, the chair could do this, but there is a Vancouver Island representative, what's her name?
Candace?
Not Candace, it's
Eve Flynn.
Eve Flynn
Yes, okay.
from Qualicum. She is the Vancouver Island's official representative for all the Vancouver Island school boards. So she could be contacted and we could get information from her about what the background is to what's happening. It's her job actually to communicate with us as to what's going on. She is an official, she is the member of the board of governors of BCPC that represents us. So she
Yes,
would be the person to,
I sat on that board for 5 years.
Yes.
So it would still be nice to have the information before I ask the questions.
Okay.
For the representative from this board.
yeah, who's currently the BCPC rep? So you're currently that rep, you could possibly
I could send an email to you.
find out what's what.
Okay. Does that cover that, Darryl?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll move down to item 19. Are there any questions from anyone present on agenda items for this meeting?
No, there's no questions.
There are no questions? That makes it easier for the start. Okay, then we'll move to item number 20, and that's Trustee Hagan.
Chairman.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Oh, sorry, we need a seconder?
No.
No, okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are done.